Hi folks, done a follow-up with the doctor today. I told him, about, my gallstone issues and what I thought may have caused it and what other people think may have contributed to them, because I was going by some of what has been suggested to me down in the comment section as far as the low-fat diet goes. So even though that can be a contributing factor, there's so much more than just that can exacerbate gallstones. First of all, we got to find out what causes gallstones in the first place. What causes gallstones?
Gallstones form when substances in bile, like cholesterol or bilirubin, crystallize and harden. This can happen due to high fat or sugar diets, obesity, rapid weight loss, diabetes, blood disorders, genetics, or being female. They also form if the gallbladder doesn't empty properly. For medical advice or a diagnosis, consult a professional.
So you heard that. It could be a high fat or a sugar diet. My issues go back at least 10 years, over a decade or more. I have a documented history with gallbladder issues going back a decade or more. And I've had scans and x-rays that clearly go back up to about somewhere around 2012, 2010, 2012, somewhere around in that area. Definitely a little over a decade. Gallstones can remain in your system undiscovered for 5 to 10 years to to over a decade or even a lifetime, being in there and undiscovered. You can have gallstones a long time throughout your entire life without even discovering them as an issue. And you can have problems like I had in 2012 or a decade ago. We'll just say a decade ago or more, where I thought I was having a heart attack. It wound up causing me to run the treadmill, run dye through me, to make sure I didn't have any heart condition. I had x-ray scans back then is how they found the initial gallstones. I have a history of it. So they determined that's what it was back then. I had triggered an event that caused my gallstones to, because I had pains on the right side of the chest. On the left side of the chest. Sorry. Your gallstone problems usually are over here, but you can have the pains on the right side of your chest, in your lower back, in your right shoulder area, and stuff like that. So it can mimic what you would think would be a heart attack or a stroke or something like that going on within you, and it be your gallbladder. So with that being said, there's a lot of things that can trigger a gallbladder attack. Not just the low-fat diet. To be frank with you, let me do this. For the Pookie crowd out there who eats the standard American diet, and for the carnivore crowd out there who eats the carnivore diet. Can the standard American diet cause gallstone issues? Because this is where mine were caused.
Yes, the standard American diet can increase your risk of gallstones. This is because it often contains too much saturated fat, refined carbohydrates, sugar, and processed foods, while being low in fiber. These factors contribute to cholesterol buildup, which can lead to painful gallstone attacks. For medical advice or a diagnosis, consult a professional.
All right, so there's the standard American diet. No brainer. Everybody kind of agrees with that one, right? Right? Raise your hand if you agree with that one. That is probably where my stone issues developed in the first place. As most people, I suppose. So, with that being said, there's a number of contributing factors that go along with it. We know that a high sugar diet or a high fat diet can cause it. So, can a gallbladder attack occur on a carnivore diet?
Yes, gallbladder attacks can happen on a carnivore diet, especially if you have gallstones. The high-fat intake requires the gallbladder to release a lot of bile, which could trigger symptoms or make existing stones worse. For medical advice or a diagnosis, consult a professional.
So it's not a cut and dry, this could cause it or that could cause it. There's just multiple reasons. You could just trip over a fence, it seems like, and you can have a gallbladder attack, right? All right. Can a low-fat diet cause a gallbladder attack?
According to Imperial College Healthcare NHS Trust, a diet too low in fat may lead to not enough bile being produced, which leads to stones forming. While having obesity is a risk factor for gallstones, so too is rapid weight loss. A very low-fat diet can result in rapid weight loss, greater than 1 kilogram per week. This also increases your chance.
Why did she cut off? This also increases your chance of forming gallstones, is what it was going to say. All right, so everything under the sun could cause these things. And my problem existed a decade or more ago. Think about that for a second. A decade or more ago. Now, I talked to my doctor about all of this. All of this. I said, I've had these stones for a long time. How long can you have gallbladder stones without having any issues? Let's just see what it says.
You can have gallstones for years, even decades, without problems, as many people remain asymptomatic. However, about 1 to 2% of people develop complications each year. The risk decreases over time, especially if no symptoms appear within the first few years. For medical advice or a diagnosis, consult a professional.
So you can have them a long time. And I've had issues with heartburn and related things to the stones. When I first discovered my stones, they told me then that it was not an issue to where I would have to have it removed at that time. They told me 10 years ago or a decade ago that at the time, because I wanted to get it removed then, and I had the option to 10 years ago. But they said if you can live with it, it's best to live with it as long as you can. That was my advice that was given to me by them. It was called the LC4 clinic. It was attached to the hospitals here. The hospital system here has these LC4 clinics that if you need assistance for paying for things or getting things done, this is the doctors that told me then. It's all documented. It's all in my medical history. So thank God for modern technology, right? Because I've got plenty of statement to back up my claims here out there. So, I was talking to my doctor about all of these different factors about what could have caused it. And the sugar diet, the low fat, Dr. McDougall, starch solution stuff, and he seemed to think that none of that was the cause of it. In fact, he strictly wants me to remain low fat throughout this process. He said that he didn't think that caused it. Now, this happened to me the first week in December before my birthday, or the last couple days of November before my birthday, my birthday came, I wasn't even able to eat cake because I didn't want to exacerbate any kind of gallbladder pain and all of that. That's all documented on the channel. All of this is documented on the channel somewhere or another. But yeah, he didn't seem to think it was either of those diets that caused it. He did, however, seem to think that, and he couldn't make a definite claim because I have a history of issues with it. So he couldn't definitely say one way or another what caused it. Doctors, kind of, tread on eggshells if when you're asking them things like this, because they want to, be held liable for anything. So in a roundabout way, you know, he seemed to think, and this is what makes the most sense to me of what I was going through at the time and therefore after. Stress. My mother was literally on her deathbed and being emotionally torn up from that. And I can't even hardly talk about it now without getting upset. When you start to get upset, you feel it in your chest area. You feel everything, and it affects you in a way that could actually cause a attack. And I had no idea of how stressed I really was. You know, I knew I was feeling it, you know, because I've been feeling it for months now. But this last time with my mother being on palliative care and hospice, you know, that hit a little harder. That hit a little harder. It's different when it's your mama or your daddy. It's things hit different when it's one of those two people in your life. So he seems to think it could have been stress related. And can stress trigger a gallbladder attack?
Yes, stress can trigger gallbladder attacks. Stress hormones, like cortisol and adrenaline, cause the gallbladder muscles to contract, which can disrupt bile flow. This can lead to gallstone buildup and blockages, particularly if you already have gallstones or gallbladder problems. For medical advice or a diagnosis, consult a professional.
That is what I'm leaning toward caused it, because yeah, I definitely felt heavy in the chest. I'm feeling it right now, just trying to get through talking about it with you at the moment. I know that there's a certain percentage of people out there who watch a certain Pookie channel out there who come into my comment section from time to time and try to control the conversation in such a way to where I will agree with them. As y'all can hear, Oscar's doing fine. That's another video. Oscar's doing good. He's perked up. He's barking now. But yeah, I have people, you know, from that try to, you know, trigger me into a response of agreeing with them. So even though all of those, it could have been this, it could have been that. There's just too many factors when it comes to gallbladder for you to just say, oh, it was a definite this caused it. If I had to pick anything that made me feel heavy in the chest in the past few weeks, it would be the death of my mother and what I was going through before her death occurred. That, in a nutshell, I think, because that was making me feel heavy everywhere, you know. That is what the doctor told me that he thought probably could have been, you know, something that could have caused it. But, you know, he said all of those factors, plus you're having a decade's worth of history going back, you know, with this issue, it was just a matter of time before something like this happened. But he said healthy diet, you know, as far as that goes, he's known plenty of people that followed similar type of diets. Especially me, you know, when I say I'm 90% plant-based and I still eat meat every few days or something like that, you know, especially when it comes to poultry and stuff. In fact, he thinks, you know, and he wants to follow it with me throughout all of this, or after all of this is over with, you know, because I've talked to him about my alpha-gal concerns, wanting to get tested with everything. He's wanting to just see if going through this or the removal could possibly you know, be all of my issues rolled into one. He doesn't even want to talk about the gluten sensitivity. He says it's fine to, you know, worry about digestion and stuff for now until this is over with. But, you know, he wouldn't be too concerned with, you know, starting a gluten-free lifestyle. Just seeing, you know, what this, because he's thinking about all of my symptoms could stem from the gallbladder issue alone and could have been stemming from it for a while now. especially since I have a decade history with it or more. Tell me what you think down in the comments, folks. And if, this, has happened to you, or some of these things have happened to you, just remember you could step on a rake, it hit you in the face, and it could trigger a gallbladder attack. That's how easy one can occur. So to pin it to a definite one thing would be asinine at this point. But if I had to pick a particular trigger of what I was going through at the time, what made me feel the heaviest, and what I think probably could have caused the straw that broke the camel's back, it was the stress I was going through from my mother's death. I think that's it in a nutshell. And that's what I'm sticking to. That's what I'm sticking to, since there's so many causes, and that was the main thing I was going through at the time. I think that's the one. Even, I told him, I went as far as to tell him that I'd had French fries and tater tots leading up to that, and he thought maybe, that was just, he laid heavy on, maybe it's the stress, it could possibly be the stress factor that he was going through. He said he's seen so much, in his time that stress can cause a lot of issues. And if you already got pre-existing issues within a stressful situation, that can exacerbate things to things to happen. Alright, folks, tell me what you think down in the comments. That's all I got for this video, folks. So until the next one, you folks have a good one.